Support for Connecticut East this week comes from SCAD, the Southeastern Council on Alcoholism and Drug Dependence, is offering a $3,500 sign-on bonus for licensed clinicians. Go to licensedclinicians.org to learn more. That's licensedclinicians.org. And Media Here and Now, a full-service content creation agency producing video, audio, podcasts, and digital content for social media, online, and broadcast use for all types of businesses, organizations, and non-profits. Find out more at mediahereandnow.com. She's the first Cannabis Ombudsman in the nation and has been in office for 6 months. We catch up with Erin Gorman-Kirk to find out what she's been up to since she took office and her outlook for 2025. Plus, we take a look at other stories making the headlines from around the region. This is Connecticut East This Week. Hello, I'm Brian Scott Smith. Legal adult use of cannabis in Connecticut will be 2 years old in January of 2025, and even before that occurred, the state back in 2012 enacted a law to legalize medical marijuana for patients in the state, and that program is still in force today. However, as the two worlds collided with the legislation of adult use and concerns from medical marijuana patients, the state introduced a bill in the General Assembly, and in May of 2024, an official Cannabis Ombudsman was created, the first in the nation, who could help advocate and bridge the gap between medical marijuana patients and the industry. 6 months on, and Erin Gorman-Kirk, the Cannabis Ombudsman, a lawyer by trade and also a medical marijuana patient herself, talks about what her office has been doing, what changes she hopes to see in the industry moving forward, and how the industry is reacting and changing in the state to meet cannabis users' needs.
So, Erin, you've been in office now for 6 months as the Connecticut Cannabis Ombudsman. Give us some updates on some of the things that have happened since we last spoke to you.
Thanks so much, Brian. It's been very exciting. I have to say, I've been warmly welcomed by the agency, the Office of Healthcare Advocate, that hired me. They've been super supportive and have given me all the inner workings of the bureaucracy, which I have not dealt with before. So that's been really helpful. And the Department of Consumer Protection has also been very helpful as they handle all the cannabis, and I am just the patient ombudsman, but we are sharing data and we're trying to figure out ways that I can help take things off their plate. So that's been very exciting. I was required to give a report to the governor by the 1st of September, which I did, outlining the first year. However, I'd only been in about 30 days. So I gave them the 40-some people that I'd met with, individuals, companies, scientists, patients, caregivers, and I spoke about the legislation that I believe needs to be attended to here in the state of Connecticut so that we can help our patients even better and really bolster the office. And then I had legislative requests that were due October 1st. And so I wrote some of those, and I did speak with the governor's office and the DCP, and we're going to coordinate, hopefully, some of those requests, such as trying to get reciprocity for medical card holders from other states who are visiting here, because we know we have a huge issue with our patients going to other states for the medication that they are unfortunately unable to get now. Some is available, but we are having shortfalls in some of the patient categories. So they're going to other states, and I'm hoping we could at least capture some people that are here. We have beautiful shorelines and summer events, and hopefully people that come will shop in our stores. And other things that I've asked for are, I would love to see insurance cover our medicine, covers our opioids. Why doesn't it cover our plant-based medicine? And I'm working with 3 or 4 different companies to bring that here. One of them is a company called Tetragram that has a program in Colorado that is for workforce. It's for workman's comp victims, and they can choose between the plant or pills. And if they choose the plant and buy something that is non-vapable or smokable, edibles, tinctures, teas, lotions, they can upload it into the app, show it to the doctor, and they get reimbursed $350 a month, which is $4,200 a year, which is incredibly impactful for many of the patients with whom I deal, and older people and veterans and anybody. For me, that'd be great. $4,200 of medication is certainly welcome. And a couple other things that I've asked for that the Department of Consumer Protection also wants are things like medical reimbursement from insurance, the reciprocity, and we're all discussing whether or not we should have the universality of products. Right now, we have, and I think you and I talked about this 6 months ago, there's a bit of a shortage because we had our original 4 producers in the medical side, and then we brought on a few more, and they're doing well and they're flowing into their stores. But we have more dispensaries opening and we have fewer patients being served because some of the dispensaries are not hybrid or medical. They're just adult use, which is fine. But there also are the hybrid and the medical. And because our patient population has gone from almost 60,000 to fewer than 40,000, some of the manufacturers, and I understand this economically, don't want to make the high percentage products because there's so few patients to sell them to. So we feel, many of us in the community, and I've talked to owners of businesses whom I won't mention because I don't have their permission, but the big producers here understand this issue. And they have said, look, the answer is let us sell to everyone. And if the state wishes, they can do what other states like Illinois have done, which is tax adult users who buy those higher percentage medical, as it were, products. And I think that'll go a long way towards bringing more products into the entire framework. We are missing a few products, and I think this would really help if we could say to manufacturers, you're not just selling to this small 38,000 group of whom we don't know how many want to buy that edible. So there's a lot going on, and I think that there's a lot more coming in 2025. I'm extremely excited and very positive for the developments.
As we look at the fact that next year it's 2 years that we've had adult use, as we look back at particularly obviously the medical marijuana side, I'm looking at some figures here, the official statistics on the Department of Consumer Protection's website. And back in January of 2023, they had medical marijuana retail sales at just over $8 million. We now find our sales as of October, according to their figures, down to $6,785,000. So there's been well over $1 million drop there. And as you said, you've also seen a drop off in the amount of medical marijuana users as well. Is that partly to do with this whole the legalization of the adult stuff? You said that people can't necessarily get the products, but also there's more dispensaries, and therefore is it making it easier for people to say, hey, I'm not going to bother sort of renewing my medical marijuana's license, as it were, or whatever it is they have to do, and I'm just going to pop down the road and I'm going to go and buy it there? Is that part of the reason as well, that because we have more choice, then the medical marijuana's people have said, fine, I don't want to travel all this distance to the dispensary. I'm going to stop being a medical marijuana user?
Lot in there, but I will say that's really what you're describing is actually driving people out of state. They're driving to other states. I was made aware of a Facebook, very long give and take by dozens and dozens of people. I just saw it last night. I don't go on Facebook very often, and I have not set up a Facebook page yet for the office, which I will do now that I saw this. But essentially, people were screaming at the top of their lungs. The language was very caustic. People are very upset. The problem is they're saying they're not going to pay whatever it costs. The state no longer charges for a license fee, but practitioners charge between, say, $99 and $200. People are saying in this string, and I've been getting calls and I get a lot of emails saying the same thing. The quality's down, the availability is down, the prices are high. Now, last month, the prices actually went down. I think we're at $11 a gram. But the issue that these people, all of whom are patients, past or present, are stating is they can't consistently get the medication they got before adult use came online. So imagine you were using a certain pill for a certain ailment for 10 years, and now it's not available. You're scrambling to find that replacement. Generic, they don't really have it, but something similar. Really hard to do if you have certain conditions. And I have people that call me and explain their specific condition, the medicine they were using that's not available, and how they're feeling now. I've had a couple people lose their jobs because they cannot achieve any kind of stasis and get themselves physically ambulatory. I've had a lot of people with neurological disorders call me because the tinctures and the HH reds and the various, even the CBD 1-to-1 THCs are not as available. So the problem is, yes, some people don't get their medical card renewed because they can just go to the nearest dispensary. But in fact, most people that I'm reading about and that are calling and emailing me are saying, we're not renewing because we're near Rhode Island and they have reciprocity. So we did renew, but now we don't have to because we actually like their pricing. They were introduced because they had a medical license, a medical card. They went to Rhode Island and then he said, oh, it's so good here, I don't even need a license. Initially, they were going for reciprocity. Now they're going for pricing. Same with I've heard a lot of people saying that. They're just going to Massachusetts. If you live in the northern part of the state, Springfield is very close. You can quickly go there. One of our producers, Mr. Ben Zacks, who owns Fine Fettle, has repeatedly talked to the press about his store in Massachusetts getting so many patients from Connecticut because he has a wider variety of products for patients. And there are things in Massachusetts he can make that he cannot make here. And this is a guy that's got 8 stores, or I don't know how many, but he's not the only one. And I've spoken to many of the producers who just feel if they could make products universally, we would retain more customers, more patients, and we would probably bring more people back into the medical frame.
We also spoke previously as well, Erin, about quality issues. You touched upon it just a moment ago as well. Where are we with that? Because there was a lot of press, a lot of conversation around quality. It wasn't just availability, although that was clearly a big issue, but we kept hearing about mold and yeast and all these types of things. Where are we with that? Is that starting to be looked at? Is it being improved? Talk to us about that.
So I do think it's being improved. It's been helpful for advocates and patients and caregivers to say, we would like to get back to where we were. I think the Department of Consumer Protection has been very proactive in going into facilities and examining. We don't necessarily have a practice in the state of Connecticut of revealing when we have a product recall. Like, it's not in the press, you can find out. And there's also a lot of things that just go on within the industry and with the DCP. But and without, again, revealing any companies, I have seen companies really step up to the plate. There was an entity that had a bad product. They simply destroyed it. They could have radiated it. They could have done other things, but they didn't. They destroyed it. And I thought that was excellent. And I do think that people are really starting to vocalize their needs. Before, I think people were so grateful, I know I was, to have a medical cannabis license and to be able to go to a dispensary and get the medicine that I needed and I used to buy for veterans and help other people and bring patients there. It was amazing. And I would never complain because I was so incredibly grateful. And I think when you got into the adult use, people started thinking there's been a shift here, and then they became more vocal. I just shifted to going to a different dispensary or buying a different grower. But a lot of people just either abandoned and went to other states, or they just became very vocal about not renewing their medical card. My job is to help patients get the medicine they need and bring those patient needs to all the powers that be here. And right now, the legislature has handled quite a bit of the rulemaking. But according to the RERACA law, 2025 will essentially be the last year the legislature will really craft rules and regulations on this. It will go into the DCP. So the DCP is gearing up for handling all this, and I'm ready to help them. And I do think that, again, in 2025, we will have more micro and cultivators online. We'll get more seeds in the ground, and we'll get more products. And I recently had a patient call and say, look, I'm at a crossroads. I've been with the program since its inception. What's your advice? Should I get my card again? My first instinct is, yes, of course, get your card. I think it protects you in ways that you might not think about. But I also think, first of all, you enjoy no taxation, but you do get some good products, I think. So I told the gentleman, I'm not going to tell you what to do, but here's what's happening. But in 2025, I think you're going to be happier. People are understanding they need to make more products. Producers are calling me saying, tell people to hang in there. We're getting there. We're getting our facilities built. We're getting our products going. We're getting our seeds in the ground. There are a couple manufacturing facilities that have recently gotten zoning, so they'll be able to take the biomass and make it into different products. And I'm also trying to get some products that are not being made to be manufactured again. And these are products that have been brought to my attention, teas and oils and things like that. So I do think that it's really, I want people to hold on because I think we are understanding that there's been a gap. The gap is there because of the way that seeds were put in the ground. But once we get to 2025, I'm really confident that the craft concepts that I've been hearing from manufacturers and cultivators and micros will really come to fruition. And I have to say, I've been secret shopping, costing me a fortune out of pocket, but I and a few others are secret shopping. And I don't tell anybody who I am. I just go in and talk. And I find people are really helpful. The gentlemen and the ladies that are helping in these stores are really educated. A lot of them ask me a lot of questions, and I hear from patients that's not the case everywhere, and I get that. Not every store is going to have a dedicated pharmacist there the second you're there. But if you can make arrangements to be seen, go when you think a pharmacist will be there. They're so helpful. And I do think that we are going to see a big uptick in 2025. The Land of Steady Habits realizes that we have major competition from other states. And we've been able to do what we need to do because New York has been an absolute mess. And I turned down a job in New York because I didn't think that they would do for their patients what we are doing here. And I really think that Connecticut understands that. And I hope to be speaking with legislators in the coming months about the proposals that I have and bring in front of them the patients who contact me. Every single patient, every single manufacturer, every caregiver that I've spoken with, 100% have said, if you can put me in front of a legislator, I will submit testimony. If I can't do it orally, I'll at least do it in writing. So I do think that people are still wanting this to be a strong program and are not losing hope, but they are vocally speaking out. For example, this Facebook page was 4 days of back and forth about, I can't get this. I went to Massachusetts. Guys are going to Maine. And that's a pretty far place to go. That's a long way to go for your medicine, but the prices are better. So that's what they're doing. And you were talking about quality. I think quality is subjective, so I probably shouldn't speak on that. But I know that I've seen some very good flour lately. I've been in different stores that have different things. And I think it is improving. I think we're seeing more producers come online with nice products that are not being remediated, that are not being, there's not the mold issues in the people that are really taking care. And there's real positivity there, I think.
I believe as well there were some changes in September of this year in Connecticut, various policy changes and whatever. Am I correct in my assumption that now when you go into a dispensary, they have to, at the minimum, have a notice saying that it's a natural product, etc.? There's a sort of almost like a warning. Explain that to us.
So there is signage explaining that can happen and that some products are radiated. And there are signs, and I've been taking pictures of them, and I do see those. But the issue for me is, how would one know as a consumer which product out of the multiple hundreds of SKUs they have would have been remediated or radiated? There are pushes to put a Redora label or some sort of labeling on the packaging itself so people know. I think others feel that it doesn't make a difference. You've radiated it, it's good. I'm not a scientist, but I don't think I want something that's been adulterated too much. I'm old school. I put a plant in the ground. I like my tomato off the vine. I don't use any pesticides. If it's moldy, I throw it away. If I get white spot on the leaves. But I understand that I'm not the scientist and there are methodologies, but I know that there's been a big discussion about mold in the state. I had a person tell me there's no mold in the state. I challenged him and went to his grow, and man, he had a clean grow. It was beautiful. And he had really good practices and amazing fire-looking flower. So he wanted to prove something to me, and he did. He really did. He did a great job. And I think people are really understanding that it's not even about what some producers feel is the noise regarding mold, et cetera. The bottom line is it's your reputation and it's going to be your competition, because we will have intrastate, interstate, and international commerce. So I think the smart business people say, gosh, even the thought that we might have mold would be really detrimental to our reputation. So we're going to be really proactive. We're going to prove we don't have it. We will destroy crops if they become so bad that we would have to take measures that we don't want to take. So I really feel that some of the pressure that the patients have put on has really come to has effectuated change. And I do feel that based on the discussions I'm having with producers and patients, that changes have happened, and it will happen gradually. But I think we will, again, get to that robust, almost craft-based, because I think even the big guys are realizing folks want something that's nice and smells a certain way and feels a certain way and makes them feel a certain way. And if they ask for the product again and again, it's going to have to be produced. So I think they're listening, and it's not that they weren't listening. I think it's just that when you start an adult use business, like any business, you're going to sell what sells. You're going to sell to the masses. You don't want to sell through to a very small sector. You want to sell to the widest, broadest sector you can. It's only good business. I understand that totally. And I do think the patients have said, listen, while you're doing that, don't forget us. And that's my role is please don't leave the patients behind. And I know, as Brian, this entire industry was built on the backs of patients. This started in the 70s, the 60s, started with AIDS patients, it started with cancer patients, started with Charlotte. These are real issues for patients. And I just continue to say, you've built your industry on the backs of patients. Don't leave them behind. Pretty please.
Erin Gorman-Kirk, Connecticut's Cannabis Ombudsman. It's always a pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much for giving us an update 6 months in. And obviously, we'll be watching this closely, not only here in the state, but obviously at the federal level as well for next year.
Thank you so much. And I look forward to another check in 6 months. Thank you.
And if you're a medical marijuana patient and need help getting your medicine or need to report issues, then visit the official website for resources and contact details at ctcannabisombudsman, all one word.com. Connecticut East This Week is made possible by Media Here and Now is a full-service content creation agency based in Eastern Connecticut and producing video, audio, podcasts and digital content for social media, online and broadcast use for all types of businesses, organizations and nonprofits. If you need a new company video or radio advert or want to start your own podcast, then get in contact and see how we can help you at mediahereandnow.com. And
SCAD, the Southeastern Council on Alcoholism and Drug Dependence, is looking for licensed clinicians and is offering the top benefits packages in the state. Go to licensedclinicians.org to learn more. That's licensedclinicians.org.
Time now for a look at other stories making the headlines this week. As it advocates for changes to the youth justice system in 2025, a Connecticut group says the state needs to do more to examine and address the root causes of crime. Edwin J. Vieira from the Connecticut News Service reports.
The Connecticut Justice Alliance wants the state to enact several reforms, including raising the age a person can be arrested from 10 to 14 and getting young offenders out of adult facilities. Studies show youth incarcerated in adult prisons face higher rates of suicide and disciplinary actions. Christina Quaranta with the Alliance says young people face many long-term impacts of incarceration.
Young people that have an interaction and are incarcerated in the adult system die sooner than those who have not. And that looks like what access to healthcare looks like inside of prison. And after, the fact that folks who have certain charges on their record aren't able to get certain jobs.
She says these consequences often fall hardest on minority youth. A 2023 report shows despite making up less than half the state's youth population, Black and Hispanic youths account for 83% of those in juvenile detention. Quaranta says the Alliance will also work to ban chemical agents used on young people in Department of Corrections custody. I'm Edwin J. Vieira.
Residents, businesses and visitors to the City of New London can now receive real-time hyper-local information alerts through their phone or email about situations or issues happening close to them. The city has purchased a software system called Code Red using $27,000 worth of ARPA funding in its continuing efforts to improve the way local government departments and the police provide meaningful information. Stephen Fields is the Chief Administrative Officer of New London and says they decided on the system based on how people consume information and communicate with one another.
It's a fact of our lifestyle now in the community is most people have a phone with them more than they carry a wallet now. So we wanted to capitalize on that particular mode of communication. And we felt that this program gave us a good opportunity to enhance our communications with the community through something that everybody has a cell phone on.
And Fields says the new system is a game changer for them.
On our computers, take and square off a section of everybody that lives in that area, and we can make notifications to those people that are signed up for these notifications. We can notify them. We can localize it. We can direct it. We can make it citywide. So there's great functionality to this program. And we're truly hoping that this is going to be a really good, effective system for everybody within government and within the community and certainly the business community.
Field says the system does not replace the statewide alert system, but does allow the city to send out messages about more localized issues and in multiple languages. The new system will allow the city to send out messages and alerts ranging from school lockdown situations, weather and flooding issues, and even localized traffic problems. Details on how to register for the alerts can be found on the city's website or Facebook page, or by texting New London CT Alerts to 24639. High school graduates in New London and New London County can now get cheaper college tuition to gain their 4-year degree. Mitchell College, a small private liberal arts school in the city of New London, is launching a pilot program providing tuition for just $30,000 per year, and students need only have a 2.5 GPA to be considered. Tracy Espy is the president of Mitchell and said it's always been in the school's history to help reduce the barriers to higher education.
Under our third president, he really looked at making sure that people who might have been in the margins could attend college, or if they were already attending college and struggled, they came to Mitchell and received additional support services, advising, or strategies for learning, and they were very successful. In some cases, they finished 2 years at Mitchell, which was back at the time, we were a 2-year degree, and then they moved on to be very successful in their 4-year degree.
Espy says they recognize also that people's attitudes towards higher education has changed.
We've seen the bloat in higher education as it relates to tuition and fees. And I think the student of today is a different kind of student. They're really looking at how can I achieve my career professional goals and not necessarily have a lot of debt. We thought we would try the pilot out, see that we could help some students that live within New London and then New London County. And a big piece of that too is requesting that the student lives on campus where they are actively involved and engaged in the community.
Espy says part of the Mitchell Promise Agreement with students is they must be a 2025 high school graduate of any New London County high school. They must also live on campus and actively participate in Mitchell community outreach programs for the duration of their degree. The total amount of student loan debt in the US currently stands at $1.75 trillion, and it can take almost 20 years to pay off student loans, and they are the second largest type of consumer debt in the US after mortgages. And Connecticut recently launched the nation's very first Christmas movie trail here in the state. A new map and details can be found on ctvisit.com website, providing details of the 22 Christmas movies that have been filmed in the state so far for channels such as Hallmark, Netflix, and Lifetime. The trail helps Christmas movie lovers find the locations where their favorite movie was filmed at, along with places nearby they can stay and other local attractions they can see while they explore. The Christmas movie trail has already garnered nationwide recognition with mentions in local and nationwide press, and more recently as part of a comedy sketch on The Tonight Show with Jimmy Fallon. That's all from us for this edition. Do send us your questions and story ideas to the show via our website at connecticut-east.com, or Facebook or Twitter at Connecticut East, and on Instagram at Connecticut East This Week. And you can listen to the show again on our social platforms, on demand, and by asking your smart speaker to play Connecticut East This Week podcast. And please like, follow, and share on your social media too. I'm Brian Scott Smith. Thank you for listening.